I regret that I'm not with you in person, but my assistant Rachel Mulgy, a young lawyer from Warri, is with you and will be with you for the entire conference. I want to tell you a few things about why I thought you would want to consider Canada. The land and its people. We're 34 million strong, living at about 10 million square kilometers, which means each one of us has about 3 square kilometers of space. It's a land rich in natural resources, rich in human resources, and we must note that we have 10% of the fresh water supply in the world. We're a country that features harmony and diversity. That is to say, harmony without homogeneity. We've been enriched by that diversity. Each one of us, every resident in Canada, is protected by a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which guarantees due process and fundamental justice for every individual that lands on our soil. One of the most important aspects of Canada, as opposed to another Western country to our south, is we have a universal access healthcare system. Every resident, on granted his or her permanent residency, is given what looks like a debit card and then has free access to the entire healthcare system, from doctors to their medical appointments, to hospital visits, and all the tests that are required. I consider healthcare to be the centrality of my citizenship, and probably one of the most important things to make sure we have as good a system as we can. Now, I know many of you are concerned with preservation of wealth, and Canada continues to lead all countries in terms of its banking system. The World Economic Forum has decided that Canada has the best banking system in the world. That's a pretty good standing for a country. We now have at least 3 banks in the top 10 in the world, and that is really something special. So it's a great place to preserve some wealth in an increasing volatile world. It's a very unstable world. Another thing that I know that you're all interested in is education, the education of our children. Nigeria is a country rich in education, has a very high literacy rate. In Canada, we have the #1 public education system in the world, according to UNESCO. It is free, universal, right from elementary school through to college, and even university. Fees are really minimal. In Quebec, where I am a resident, the university fees are some $2,300 a year. That's right, I said it right, $2,300 a year. Now, what I might want to tell you is that more students are coming to study in Canada at the secondary and post-secondary level from Nigeria than all other countries in Africa put together. Now, why is this important? Canada has an experience clause where if your youngsters are full-time in a university or college in Canada, they're entitled to a work permit and they're on the path to permanent residency. Now, I think that is very significant. You'll be giving those students and your young people a situation where they'll have a strategic location. Canada's wonderful relations with the United States in terms of a free trade agreement. We have excellent relations with the more than 50 Commonwealth countries. We're closely tied to the Francophonie. In fact, in many ways, the Canadian passport could be the most important credit card or gateway that you've ever given them to the New World. Many Nigerian families already have their young students in the United Kingdom or the United States. And you know the cost that is being borne by those schools. Canada is a bargain when you compare our fee structure and the quality of our education to the other countries. On becoming a resident, you'd be entitled to pay resident fees for your students at university, which really amount to about $2,300 a year, as I said, in Quebec. And in the rest of the country, they run between $6,000 and $8,000 a year. When you think of United Kingdom or the United States, I'm sure you're paying in the equivalent anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a year per student. So I think residency might turn out to be one of the most important bargains in terms of future education and future positioning of your student children. Now, I spoke briefly about the importance of preserving wealth and how Canada is a good place to preserve your wealth. Well, in the recent global financial crisis, 2008, and the fiscal meltdown that took place, Canada did not have that meltdown. Most of the world is still slow coming out of that, coming out of the depths of that 2008 meltdown. Well, we didn't have one. Why not? Well, our government invested heavily in our infrastructure. We actually put people to work. Other countries seem to have chosen to bail out banks, institutions, and mortgage companies. Here in Canada, we actually did a lot of work on our infrastructure and paid people who immediately reinvested in our economy. Now, if we're thinking of the debt and deficit that a country has amassed and what your obligations might be in coming to a new country, if you think of residency in Canada, there was a recent speech from the throne which has suggested that by the year 2015, Canada will actually have an act of parliament that will not allow governments to go either into debt or into deficit financing unless there is a truly national emergency. Now, what a difference to the debate currently taking place with our American neighbor, who seems to be in a crisis every 3 months, a crisis that causes worldwide ripples. Now, the other important aspect of what we have, the most important asset that a family often has are their houses. Now, we did not experience a housing crisis. I admit we did not have a bubble. We didn't have the sharp rises or low depths, but the housing market continues unabated. We have more and more housing starts, new housing starts. Home markets are selling very, very well, and new residents of Canada tell me that bricks and mortar is still the wisest investment, and many of my friends who've come recently from Nigeria are busy investing in property and in other types of real estate. So the country I call Canada, this experiment, which is still ongoing with its wide open spaces, rich in its natural and human resources, it may be the best country in the world to live in. In fact, with its strategic location and its quality of life, Canada is so attractive, I think I'm going to remain. In fact, I can assure you I'm remaining. I'll be here to give you a warm welcome when you do come. I can give you 79 reasons for considering Canada in your future plans. Plans for visiting, for residency, for university, for university study for your children, for doing business, and I may not want to even talk too much about the weather. You won't blame me. Many of us go into a little warmer climate for some time in the winter, and that might be a good time to visit the family back in Nigeria. Canada is a great place to do business. Our strategic location, a free trade alliance with the United States, and that agreement that gives us free access to goods and services across the border to some at least 300 million people. A free trade agreement with Europe, almost completed and concluded. Wonderful relations with all the Commonwealth countries, with the Francophone countries, and with all of Asia. Our strategic location in really the center of the world. That Canadian passport is undoubtedly the most cherished commodity you have. Now, Canada has recently enacted a number of important changes. We now have the lowest corporate tax rate among all G7 countries. Now, there's been a heavy emphasis on increasing relations between our two countries. Canada increased the size of the High Commission in Abuja and has appointed new trade commissioners. We've recently witnessed at least 3 ministerial visits with important delegations of Canadian businessmen who want to increase relations between our two countries. There have been at least 2 major conferences in Canada with Nigerians and Canadians participating, at least 300 or 400 in Toronto, all interested in building broader relations between our two countries. I've been attending many of the conferences of the Canadian Council for Africa, which is now paying particular focus on Nigeria and has been sending delegations to Nigeria at least twice a year of business people, again, interested in broadening relations, of having Nigerians do more business in Canada and having Canadians do more business in Nigeria. Of course, one of the important things in trying to do business in another country is to understand the laws of that country. And inviting Nigerian residents and citizens to come and do business in Canada with Canadians, one of the important suggestions I would have to make is that you would want to consider residency, because residency provides you with all the protection of Canadian law. Every individual residing in Canada, doing business in Canada, is protected by the same fundamental justice due process that I told you about. So I think it's very important, if you're going to be in a business relationship, a partnership, make an investment, that you consider residency and have the full protection of Canadian law. Now, I know you're wondering who I am and what I am. I'm a pharmacist that came out of the inner city of Montreal, Quebec, one of the 10 provinces in Canada. I've been a constant volunteer in my community in all of its activities. I had the honor of serving as the mayor of Dollar-des-Ormeaux, a suburban West Island community. I've been a member of different councils in and around Montreal and the executive committee. But of more particular interest to you, I'm the former Minister of Immigration and Citizenship and the Secretary of State of Canada. I was the minister that actually created the Immigrant Investor Program. And over the last 25 years at least, I've been busy marketing the investor program to many families such as yourselves. I've had the honor now of working with Pace Law Firm for the last 8 years. And Al Pace, the owner of the firm, started in about 1975, has built an absolutely marvelous team. We're about 150 strong, 15 of us in the immigration section, half with former government experience, including myself as the former minister. We consider ourselves the A team. We're quick in responding, we're very knowledgeable, and we look after the interests of our clients at all times. What's important to know is we want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us before we even want you to agree to contract for any services. So that the first point of entry would be for either myself or Rachel to ask you for a resume. We'll have the resume examined by one of our senior officials. We'll then make recommendation for a program that you think might be suitable in your particular case. Then, and only then, if you're agreeable, we'll make an offer of service, and providing you're prepared to give us a mandate, only then will there be any charge for any of our services. So much of what I do is pro bono. I'm very happy to do it. I enjoy what I've done. I continue to do what I do here and now because of a love of the team, the excellence of the team. I'm strongly connected to Mr. Pace, who owns the firm, and my own feeling of how important it is to continue to welcome new people to Canada. Canada has been built by that diversity. We've been enriched by diversity. Our firm has about 32 different languages that we speak, and Canada, of course, as you know, has 100 or 200 different cultural communities that have come from all over the world now. There's different program area that I can talk to you about, and Rachel will tell you more about. But the one that I had told you I created back in 1986 when I was the immigration minister, the Immigrant Investor Fund, it provides that if you have a certain net worth and are prepared to either make an investment with the government, or which they'll keep for 5 years without interest, or pay a certain amount that would cover fees of agents and also commission, they're prepared to advance a residency permit for you in return. Now, the federal program was frozen throughout the last year and a half. The Quebec program has been open. In fact, it opened in August for a period of 2 weeks. They agreed to accept 1,700 families in the program in that 2-week period. 1,200 from China, because of the abundance of applicants that are qualified that are coming through the Chinese sector, and 500 from the rest of the world. Indeed, if we consider Nigeria as being the rest of the world, the government of Quebec accepted about 745 applications, of which 500 will be accepted. To me, that's odds of better than 80%. I like a lottery where there's more than 80%. And in fact, in the last few days, I think we'll have cleared most of those people that we put in the random lottery. Our Quebec lawyer is absolutely exceptional when it comes to the completion of the file, and his record to date is 100%. If you have an interest in us, if you have an interest in the residency program through the investor file, I can tell you that Julian and we will make it possible. In fact, it's critically important for you to speak to us now if you're at all interested in the next random draw that will take place early in the new year of this investor program. But don't despair. If residency is in your interest, I will have your resume really examined carefully by one of our officials, as I said, at no charge. And then, and only then, will I make a recommendation of a program that may suit your needs. Because in addition to the Quebec Investor Program, many provinces can select residents with skills in high demand who are prepared to make an investment and work in a business in one of their provinces. For those who just can't wait, there's another option available. A Canadian federal program under Regulation 205 involves granting a work permit to open a business or buy one if it will create social, economic, or cultural benefits for Canadians. Under that program, you and your family could come to Canada within a couple of months on work permits, and after about 1 year, will qualify to become permanent residents. As I said, this whole program falls under Canadian Experience, which is the same class that the university student is, or the college student is granted their residency and also permanency. So in other words, it involves a two-step process to permanent residency. In addition, the government, in a recent speech to the throne before the Parliament, has indicated their intention to bring forward a new residency program that would be business and investor oriented. Don't despair. I can assure you there'll be lots of opportunity in the event you may not qualify for Canada, or if you're interested in immigration to another country. We can also help you with that as well. For example, we can help you qualify under the US EB-5 program, which is similar to the Canadian or work permit option. We can help you obtain a US E2 work visa to start or purchase a US business. We can also help you with immigrant investor programs for other countries. These will give you visa-free travel to over 100 countries almost without residency. If you're looking for passports of convenience, we can get them for you in much less than a year, often in a matter of months, providing you qualify. But it will not give you Canada. No. My admin assistant, Rachel Malgi, has been with you throughout your conference, and I know has been able to answer some of your questions. However, I'll be in Lagos the first week of December and would be delighted to meet with you in a small group or privately. I'm always available by phone. Rachel will have our Nigerian phone coordinates available and will be sharing them with you. You may also write me at gweiner@pacelawfirm.com for any clarification or any further information. Please write even if it's just to say hello. I will be very pleased to hear from you and will look forward to your staying in touch. Thanks very much.